Say hello to Duskbane and my favorite deck in all of Flesh and Blood, Sir Boltyn, Breaker of Dawn. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I'm going to be doing a deck tech video for my favorite deck in all of Flesh and Blood, Sir Boltyn, Breaker of Dawn. A light warrior hero with 4 intellect and 40 health that says if you've charged this turn, your attacks get +1 power while defended by an attack action card. And as an attack reaction, you can banish a card from Boltyn's Soul to give target attack with power greater than its base go again. This deck is my pride and joy. I love Boltyn. I love the deck. I played him for my very first time like a year and a half-ish ago, and I'm like, man, this deck is really fun. I didn't expect it to be fun, but man, this is really fun. And ever since, I've been just trying to make a really solid Boltyn list, and this is where I'm at right now, with next year, the first set of next year likely being a Monarch, a something-related set that has to do with Boltyn, with Levia, and that whole story arc. Boltyn is going to get a ton of upgrades. So this list, while being very good right now, I'm hoping to get some massive upgrades here very soon. So let's go over this deck, all the cards, the strategies, and just why I love this hero so much. And oh, by the way, I'm recording this on the day of Flesh and Blood's birthday. So happy birthday to Flesh and Blood. Once again, if you don't already know, October 11th, 5th year anniversary of Flesh and Blood. Happy birthday, or for those of you watching right now, belated birthday to Flesh and Blood. So, let's go over the weapon. Raiden Duskbane, my favorite weapon in the entire game. I love this weapon. It costs nothing to attack with. You just swing with it, and it attacks for nothing, but if you've charged this turn, Raiden gets +3 power. So it can be a free 3-powered attacker that you can come at your opponent with every single turn. What? So yeah, pretty awesome. And I think you're all ready, for those of you that have never seen Boltyn before, or starting to see a little bit of a pattern, like charging to your hero's soul, going wide with Boltyn's ability, or just with your cards, and then coming in with Raiden at the end of the chain every single turn, and getting some value out of an Iron Sun versus the best weapon, or the best equipment in this deck. A 2 block with temper, so you can block with it for 2 once and for 1 a second time, and as a once per turn action for a single resource, your next sword attack this turn gets, when this hits a hero, create a courage token, which on whenever a attack action or a weapon attacks, whenever something attacks, you destroy the courage token and you give that attack +1 power, which matters because that fulfills Boltyn's clause to give something go again, since it has power greater than its base. So yeah, that's just awesome. And Raiden is the main key attacker that you're wanting to come in with every single turn. So in theory, you get off in an Iron Sun versus every single turn. Otherwise, your opponent's just blocking the card from their hand and like stripping you some value, sure, but that's one less card in their hand to do stuff with you next turn, which gives you in turn more time to set up and do the big crazy combo that this deck is capable of doing. So let's go over the rest of the equipment, which basically the rest of this equipment suite is just defensive mode. Just try and soak up as much damage as possible and allow you to just set up for as long as possible and just get the most, just sculpt. Just sculpt until you get this massive engine machine built that your opponent just cannot stop. So the main defensive piece of equipment in this deck is Soul Bond, Resolve, another legendary. This is a bit more of an expensive deck. It does have 3 legendaries in it, but it's still $210 for the full list, which is kind of crazy to me, but whatever. This Soul Bond resolves, blocks for 2 temper, so 2 once, 1 again, and when this defends, you may charge your hero's soul. So you put a card from your hand face up under your hero card, which is just the soul. You put it into your hero's soul, which is very cool because charging is a very big part of this deck, as you can tell from Boltyn and Raiden and some other cards that you'll see here shortly. So, getting you some value, and the first time you would be dealt damage each turn, if you've charged, prevent 1 of that damage. So you just can block for 2, sure, but if you charged at all with this card or something else, because there are other ways to charge on your opponent's turn when you're defending, which we'll get to that card later, then you are effectively blocking for 3 with this card. That's insane. And even when you're not blocking with this, if you've charged on your opponent's turn, then you get to soak up a little bit of extra damage the first time you take damage, thanks to Soul Bond Resolve. Just its passive ability. This isn't a, when this blocks, if you, yeah, it's just so good. I love this card. In addition to that, I got 2 other pieces of equipment that can get some value from the Soul Bond Resolve and just value from charging on their own. Warpath of Wind and Grace I'll go over first. It's a 2-block with Blade Break, so you can block with it for 2 only once, but when this defends, you may charge your hero soul, turning on the Soul Bond Resolve, and if a yellow card was charged this way, you create a Quicken token, which is the same thing as a Courage token, but instead of getting a +1 power buff, you get Go Again, which is pretty freaking insane, because while this deck seems like it can go very wide, not a ton of the attacks actually have Go Again, or at least free Go Again, and having a way to get free Go Again without having to do some extra stuff is very helpful, which is why this is the leg piece. And, I mean, you may think, well, you need to charge a yellow card. There are 37 yellows in this deck, so you got plenty of ammunition for something like a Warpath of Wind and Grace. In addition to that, there's Helm of Halo's Grace, which is the same thing, but instead of, if you charged with the yellow card, you get to create a Quicken token, you instead get to draw a card, which is even better because basically, you block with the Helm of Halo's Grace for 2, you get 2 block from there, you charge, you get to soak up an extra damage, potentially if you do get hit with Soul Bond Resolve, and then if it's a yellow card getting charged, you go down no cards in hand, and you got extra cards in your hero's soul to allow you to do other stuff later on down the line, either giving some stuff Go Again with Boltyn, or just some other crazy stuff that we'll get to here in a bit. So the equipment suite just works so well with the deck, and man is it a fridge. Even though it's not that incredibly expensive, honestly, the 2 legendaries in this, equipment list are not that expensive, believe it or not. And so all 4 of these equipment, for how much they block and for how much they do for the deck, it is so freaking worth it. I would totally get this equipment suite. Even for maybe even a fully tuned version of Boltyn, this might be the equipment suite. Like, honest to God, it might be. Then, getting into the main deck, let's go over this go wide kind of combo setup deck, because it is an aggressive deck that does want to go super wide and just force your opponent to block with as much as possible, because you can get some pretty insane value off of your stuff. But in addition to that, it also wants to set up, which we'll get to some of those cards here in a bit, but starting things off, we're going to go down the line from basically the stuff that's going super wide and just the main attackers to the deck to the combo side of the deck. So going into the aggressive side, I got Beaming Bravado to start things off. 0 cost 3 attack that blocks for 3, great start. Light Warrior attack action, does not have Go Again, but as an additional cost to play this, you may charge your hero's soul, and if a yellow card is charged this way, this gets +1 power, which got greater power than its base. Boltyn can give it Go Again if you really need it to. Again, this is why the Quicken tokens made by the Warpath are very good, because you got to go through some extra shenaniganry in order to get stuff Go Again. Now, granted, it doesn't cost that much, because charging your hero's soul and getting cards into your soul, the main payoff is getting Go Again, free Go Again from Boltyn. Plus, it's not a once per turn attack reaction. That is something else that is very noteworthy. You can do this like 5 times in a single turn if you really want to, if you're going that wide, so that is something to note as well. But yeah, Beaming Bravado, it doesn't really have Go Again, but there are very easy ways to give it Go Again thanks to Boltyn. Then there is Bolt of Courage, a 0 cost 3 attack, 3 block, that as an initial cost to play it, you can charge your hero's soul, and if you've charged at all this turn, not even with this card's own ability, if you've charged this turn, this card gains, if it hits, you draw a card. So your opponent really wants to block this. And if it's an attack reaction, or an attack action, Boltyn, if you charge this turn, gives that a +1 power buff, so the opponent has to block for an additional card with an additional card or an equipment if they are blocking this with an attack action, with blocking Bolt of Courage, I mean. Which doesn't seem like a big deal, and doesn't seem like it would happen that often, but it happens a lot more often than you would think. Even then, even if they're not, that's still a card that's getting out of their hand to block this card that's allowing you to draw a card. Or if it hits, well, boom, that's 1 extra card in your hand. And again, there are ways to give this Go Again. I mean, it doesn't give itself a +1 power buff, but there are ways to give cards that you're attacking with, your attacks, power buffs. Either with courage tokens made by something like an Iron Song Versus or Courageous Steel Hand. A 0-cost Light Warrior attack reaction. It only blocks for 2, unfortunately, but if you've charged this turn, target attack gains +3 power. Not just your weapon, any attack, which could be a Bolt of Courage, allowing you to give it power greater than its base to get it go again with Boltyn. Whether it's hitting or not, and drawing you a card, or not drawing you a card, you can give it go again, and plenty of other cards in this deck that don't have free go again, with Courageous Steel Hand. Very, very important attack reaction in this deck. I love this card so much. It is a kind of like backbone in this deck. Then there's Engulfing Light, just another good on-hit card. A 0-cost, 3 attack, 3 block that adds an additional cost to play. You may charge your hero's soul. And if you charge at all this turn, this gains, if it hits, you put it into your hero's soul, which is kind of insane because you're coming in with this, you can get value off of it just charging. Sure, you're losing a card from your hand, which is a massive downside of this deck. Every time you charge, you are losing a card from your hand. But if you come in with this, and if you've charged either with its own ability or previously this turn, if this does hit, that is 1 more card going into your soul. So you do get an extra bit of value because, sure, you are losing cards from your hand from charging and getting the charge activation online to get this thing on hit. But if you do that, that's more cards, that's more stuff that you can use later on for your soul, from your soul. Either for go again, free go again from Boltyn, or other stuff that, again, we will get to soon. Then there is Express Lightning. This is just a solid card, 0-cost, 4 attack, 3 block, that adds an additional cost to play. You may charge your hero's soul. It's just a solid attacker, and you wouldn't think it, but this card actually does a lot more work than you would think, and it can just, it's good damage. It's good, consistent damage that's coming in every single turn. Well, not every single turn, obviously, but it's good on-rate damage that also blocks for 3. That is very noteworthy, and there are ways to give this go again in the deck. So, who knows, maybe it can get you even more value if you can get it go again somehow. Otherwise, just 0-cost 4 attack that blocks for 3. What's so bad about that? And hey, you don't even have to charge with this. All of these are may charge. You may charge. You don't have to. So this can just be a 0-cost 4 attack, or you can get some value if you need to, if you're fine losing cards from your hand and getting stuff into your soul. Then there's Illuminate, 0-cost 4 attack. It is a slightly better but also worse version of Express Lightning because it doesn't guarantee that you're getting cards into your soul because Illuminate is a 0-cost 4 attack 3 block. Same thing as the card I was just talking about, Express Lightning, but Illuminate says if it hits, you put it into your hero's soul. So you're not charging, you're not losing cards from your hand no matter what, and if this hits, it goes into your soul, so that's some pretty sweet value. But it has to hit. And this is one of the more threatening on-hits in the deck because it's going to be, that on-hit is always going to be online. You wouldn't think that your opponent would block it as often as some of your other stuff like Bolt of Courage, but Illuminate is going to get blocked almost the entirety of the time, so only 2 copies of this is really needed in the deck. I mean, a 3 of this card is solid, but it's not as solid as you would think, which is why I cut it down to only 2 copies. Then there's Light the Way, 0-cost 3 attack that adds an additional cost to play this. You may charge your hero's soul, and if this hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, this gets go again. That's a solid card. That's an on-hit that your opponent's wanting to block. Or, if you're playing against frickin' Enigma, you might all be thinking, well, Enigma crushes this deck. It does, kind of. But, that is a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff with Ward that Enigma is losing, or a lot of cards that Enigma's blocking with to make sure that these on-hits don't happen, or that their Ward permanents don't blow up. So, there you go. Then there is Take Flight. I love this card. 1-cost 4 attack. It is a 1-cost. Most of this deck costs nothing to play these cards, but Take Flight is one of the few 1-cost cards. But it is a very good 1-cost card, so it is worth it in this mostly pitchless deck. It's a 4 attack that adds an additional cost to play. You may charge your hero's soul. And if you've charged it all this turn, this gets go again. And it's a 3 block. That is solid because, I mean, 1 for 4, likely going to be go again. That is good. That is very good, honestly. So yeah, Take Flight, good attack. Let's just go with that. Then getting past the reds, the rest of this deck is yellow. Most of the rest of this, most of the yellows in this deck are more like setup-y cards, but there's a good amount of like go wide value cards as well. Two cards I do want to go over first before I get more into the go wide aggressive side of the deck. Banneret of Courage and Banneret of Gallantry. A lot of cards that you're charging, especially ones that are yellow that you want to pitch with sometimes, you're losing value because you're losing cards from your hand. But there are 6 cards in this deck that get you value when they're charged, which is a very important part of this deck. Those cards being Banneret of Courage and Banneret of Gallantry. Banneret of Courage being a 1 cost 4 attack, you're pretty much never going to attack with this. 1 cost 4 attack, 3 block that pitches for 2. That is fine, but the main thing that matters about this card is that when this is charged, Soul Flare goes online and you create a Courage token, which is, again, is the thing that can get you a power buff to your attacks whenever you attack with your next thing. That is very, very, very solid, because you get value from charging, which is losing a card from your hand, but you're getting value off of something like a Banneret of Courage if you charge it. Same thing with Banneret of Gallantry. Instead of creating a Courage token, you're making a Quicken token, which is free Go Again, which, if you don't already know at this point, free Go Again in a deck that does not have a ton of guaranteed Go Again attacks, or pretty much none, is, it's good. It's very good. Then getting back into the more aggressive side of the deck, I got Beaming Bravado yellows. Same thing as the reds, but it's just 1 less powered. It's still a solid card. It's not the best, so it's only a 2-of, but it's still fine. It's still solid. Bolt of Courage, it's also a 2-of. I would like for this to be a 3-of, but it's just not consistent enough. It is a 2 attack, and yeah, it's really hard to, Bolt of Courage. See, the thing with this Bolt of Courage that makes it a 3-of, and why I like this card so much as a red at 3-of, is if your opponent blocks with an attack action, which again, there are plenty of, well, it goes up to 4, and then they gotta block with the, whatever I said before. You all know this. But with this Bolt of Courage, if your opponent blocks with an attack action and buffs this up by 1, well, it's still coming in for 3. So they just block with 1 attack action, it blocks for 3, and then boom, all the damage is soaked up and this thing doesn't have an on-hit. It's still something that is very much so like, hey, you gotta block this, but it's not as great. So it is a kind of feels bad, but it is still solid. It is still a solid attacker, and it still has a very solid on-hit, so it is still a 2-of in the deck instead of a 3-of. Then there's Light the Way. This is just the same thing as the red one. It's just 1 less power. It's, again, maybe not as great because, I mean, it's still got a hit and all that kind of stuff in order to get Go Again, but going wide in his deck is a lot more important, honestly, than getting cards, which is why this, Light the Way, is a 3-of instead of Bolts of Courage being a 2-of, or being a 3-of. Then, some other cards that I want to go over, Celestial Cataclysm, and another card that it's very similar well, not really that similar, but Celestial Cataclysm. This is pretty much the best attacker in the entire deck. 0 cost 7 attack. That's insane, especially when it can pitch for 2 if you really need it to, and it blocks for 3 if you really needed to. And it has Go Again. 0 cost 7 attack, Go Again? That's busted. But, as an additional cost to play this card, you have to banish 3 cards from your hero's soul. That's one of the big payoffs for charging cards to your soul. So something like a Celestial Cataclysm you can actually play as a free 7 attack with Go Again. So yes, while charging cards and losing cards in your hand does suck, it can allow you to set up for some stupid things such as Boltyn's potentially free Go Agains that you can give out multiple times in a turn, or something like the Celestial Cataclysm, which is a massive tempo swing if you can play 1, 2, maybe even 3. Even 1 or 2 of these in a single game can just be back-breaking for your opponent because it is just such a big thing just coming out of nowhere. Plus it does, great card. Then there is Lumina Lance. This is only a 2-of. It was originally a 3-of when I originally discovered this card. I'm like, oh my god, this is insane! Well, having 6 cards that force you to banish like a ton of cards from your soul, it isn't great, especially when, again, a lot of the like soul taking advantage stuff is from Boltyn's ability. You don't want to have too many cards in your deck that force you to banish cards from your soul in order to get value off of the cards, which is why Lumina Lance is only a 2-of. So this is a 0-cost light attack reaction that, as an additional cost of play, you may banish up to 3 cards from your soul. So you can only banish 1 if you want to. You can banish 2, or you can banish all 3 if you want to. Then choose that many modes based on how many cards you banish. If you banish 1 card, you can only choose 2, or you can, yeah. You all know what I'm trying to say. Sort of, maybe. Who knows? But so, the first option is target light attack gets +2 power. The second option is target light attack gets when this hits, draw a card. And the third option is target light attack gets when this hits, it gets go again. That is a big deal. All of these are important in some sense or another. The Lumina Lance's first thing, give target thing +2 power, can allow you to hit with something like a Bolt of Courage, a Light the Way, something that on hit gets you some sense of value because of it hitting. Plus, it's getting a card over its base power, so you can give it free go again with Boltyn if you banish a card from your soul. You could give it go again if it hits with something like its third option. When it hits, target light attack gets, when it hits, you get go again, it gets go again. Or if you need more cards in your hand to do more go wide combo shit, you can go with the second option to when that light attack hits, you get to draw a card. But again, you have to banish 1 card for each of these options you are getting from your soul, which you're going to be getting a lot of cards into your soul with this deck, not going to lie. There are going to be plenty of stuff going into your soul, but not enough to where there needs to be 3 of this and 3 of Celestial Cataclysm. This is a very good card, but it is not as good as you would think. It is still some sweet, solid value in this kind of go-wide shell. It can be very powerful and very good, and it is a lot better, in my opinion, than a yellow, for example, Courageous Steel hand, but it still is not worth having 3 copies of Lumina Lance in this deck. So then, getting into the next 2 cards, the last 2 cards that really care about go-wide aggressiveness. Take Flight Yellow, just a very, I talked about the red version, it's good. This one, it can get free go again. Pretty much, whenever you're attacking this, it's pretty much always going to have go again for free. It doesn't even have to hit to get itself go again. That's very solid and very good. So, Yellow Take Flight, like the red one, very solid card. Then lastly, there's V of the Vanguard, one of the big combo payoff cards in the deck. You can charge a ton of cards, and then if you're going super wide in a turn, man, you can get so much value and so much damage off of this card, it is not even funny. So, what does V of the Vanguard do? Well, it's a 1-cost, 3 attack, 3 block. That is a Boltyn specialization. And as an additional cost to play this card, you may charge your hero's soul any number of times. So for each card you're taking from your hand and putting into your soul, you get the following. +1 power to all of your attacks on this combat chain for each light card charged this way. So let's say you have a 4-card hand and this card in the arsenal. You pitch a card to V of the Vanguard. You have 3 cards in your hand and you're playing V of the Vanguard. And you get 1 card. You charge 1 single card from your hand, put it into your soul. Now, all your attacks for the entirety of this turn are going to get +1 power, including V of the Vanguard, so it's up to a 4 cost, or up to a 4 attack, sorry. Then you can give it go again somehow. Either maybe you give it go again with a Quicken token, or you give it go again with Boltyn's ability, or something like that, right? Then you play a card from your hand. Well, now you're down to 1 card. It gets +1 power. You can these are the big turns where you're taking advantage of Boltyn's ability and getting rid of a ton of cards from your soul to then give everything go again to just go as wide as possible. And in that card, let's say it's a Bolt of Courage and it hits magically. Well, that's another card in your hand. This is like Disneyland stuff. But then you go with another attack. You're still at 1 card in hand. You attack with another thing. You hit again or something like that. And you come in with another card. And you're coming in with like 3, 4 cards. 3, like 3, 4 cards, including this, on 1 turn. And, God, the amount of damage you can get on V of the Vanguard turns in this deck is just nuts. It's nuts. But this is not the big combo of the deck. This is not the biggest combo. It's just a tool in its package, and it's a very good one, but it's not the best one. So let's go into the rest of the combo side and the defensive side and the setup side of this deck. So I went over all of the reds and a lot of these yellows, but not all of them. And there are some very defensive cards in this deck. So let's go over those cards first. The first one being Soul Shield. This is a 2-cost light defense reaction. So it does cost 2, so you do have to pitch a whole card, but thankfully all the cards you want to pitch, the yellows, do pitch for 2, and this costs 2, so that works out. Then this light defense reaction blocks for 6. That's nuts, because, I mean, blocking for 6, I mean, that can do some work in this format. And then when you put, then when the combat chain closes, you put Soul Shield into your soul. So basically, you pitch 2 to this, you block with this for 6 freaking value. That's insane. And then once that's all said and done, you put it into your soul. Great value. This does everything that the deck wants to do, which is just giving you more time. When you don't need to, or you don't really want to block with your equipment, and you still need to block really badly, something like Soul Shield can save your butt so much. I just love this card. And there's a reason it's a 3-of. It's just a very, very, very solid card. Then there's Saving Grace. This card. This is the best card that Boltyn has gotten since Spirit of Irina, in my opinion. Saving Grace is absurdly good. Honestly, I would say that it is better than these Banneret cards, because this card can just do so much work for you. And it makes something like a Soul Bond Resolve look like a very good option as a main chess piece in the most competitive Boltyn lists, at least in my opinion. So yeah, remember when I said that Soul Bond Resolve, there were cards that could turn it on during your opponent's turn that weren't equipment? Saving Grace was the card that I was talking about. This is a 0-cost. I do want to note that really bad. This is a 0-cost defense reaction that blocks for 3, pitches for 2 on raid start. But as an additional cost to play this card, you may charge your hero's soul. And if you've charged at all this turn, target attack gets -2 power. So, you're blocking with this card, let's say for 3, and you've charged with its own ability or with any of your equipment, doesn't matter. This then says you've charged, that thing you're blocking gets -2 power. Then, since you've charged this turn, something like a Soulbound Resolve goes on, and let's say this is the first time you're being dealt damage, and you prevent that 1 damage that would be dealt to you from, let's say, a 6 attack, like Command and Conquer. Well, you take a 0-cost defense reaction. You get rid of 1 extra card from your hand, which is a really big feels bad. But you can get value off of it in the soul later on down the line because, again, setup deck, right? And setting up on your opponent's turn through blocking is actually very good, which is why something like a Soul Shield is very good in this deck. Same thing with Saving Grace. So, you block with Saving Grace. You charge, you get rid of a card from your hand, either Saving Grace or something else, one of your equipment. And then this blocks for 3, -2 to the thing that you're attacking with, and then you prevent 1 damage from the Soul Bond Resolve. That is cleanly blocking a 6 attack, such as the very potent and very, 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 very strong card, Command and Conquer. And plenty of other 6 attacks in this game that are very powerful, and just blocking up to 6 damage through 1 card, that's insane. Plus, it's getting you value on later turns through something going into your soul. That is insane. Otherwise, who knows? It's just a 0-cost 3-block defense reaction. That's not the end of the world either, even if you don't charge with this. If you charge with one of your equipments, you don't even have to charge a card with this, and you can get some nuts value off of its ability. I mean, just love this card. Love this card. Then, there are 3 more cards that I want to go over. The first one being Beacon of Victory. This card is insane. It's a 0-cost light warrior attack reaction that blocks for 3. And as an additional cost to play this, you may banish X cards from your hero's soul. That is another reason why Lumina Lance is not a 3-of in this deck. Because this card is the best way to get, this is the best payoff for stuff going into your soul in the entire deck. Trust me when I say that. So, you may charge, or you may banish any amount of cards from your hero's soul. It cannot be 0. You must banish at least 1 card from your hero's soul. And target attack gets plus X power. And if you've charged this turn, you may search your deck for any action card with cost X or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. This is nuts because it can get you any card that you need in your deck. You need something like a Via the Vanguard, you need something like a Celestial Cataclysm, you need something like a Lumina Ascension, which we'll go over here in a second. Beacon of Victory can get it for you, for free. You get rid of some cards from your soul, but the reason that you're putting stuff in your soul in the first place is to get payoffs from cards like this. That is nuts. This card, and it gets you extra power on your attacker, which if it doesn't have Go Again already, Boltyn, boom, get rid of 1 more card from your soul, and now it has Go Again. That's nuts. You don't even have to banish like 5 cards from your soul. You can just banish 1 if you really, really want to, and you're like really don't have a lot of like stuff in your soul. You can just get rid of 1 single card from your soul and get any card in this deck if you get rid of 1 card from your soul. That is insane. And then if you really need to, give it Go Again with Boltyn's ability. Boom. 2 cards from your soul to give the thing that you're attacking with Go Again, thanks to Beacon of Victory, and get any card, any action in your deck, any card in this deck, besides the attack reactions and defense reactions, for free. That's insane. Then, there is Spirit of Irina. This is a legendary, both like legendary rarity and legendary card, meaning you can only have 1 copy of it in your deck. And this is a 0 cost light warrior action item. Does not have Go Again. If this would be put into your soul, instead put it into the arena. So if you charge with this, you immediately put it into the arena. And you may play Lumina Ascension as though it were an instant. You don't know what Lumina Ascension is yet, if you've never seen Boltyn before, or if you played Boltyn a lot, which is likely, like for those of you watching this video, likely you've played Boltyn before. This is one of the most powerful cards in the entire deck. Again, I said that this Saving Grace was the best card that's been made for Boltyn since Spirit of Irina. Spirit of Irina is just such an incredible card for Boltyn. It is not even funny. It's not even funny. But yeah, Spirit of Irina, insane card. Now, one thing that I do want to note, something like a Light the Way, if this hits, if a yellow card was charged this way, it gets Go Again. If you charge something like a Spirit of Irina, it does not technically go into the soul. It goes into the soul and then goes immediately into the arena. That does not turn on the Light the Way. If it does hit, and you do charge something like a Spirit of Irina, which is yellow, it does not technically get Go Again, even if it hits and you did charge the Spirit of Irina. I just want to make that note because I learned that mistake many times on Talishar. But yeah, there you go. Then there's Lumina Ascension, the biggest card, the most important card in the entire deck. Spirit of Irina, so you can play these at instant speed. Why does that matter? You're about to see. Lumina Ascension is a 0 cost, 2 pitch, 3 block, light warrior action with Go Again. So, with something like a Spirit of Irina out, if you play one of these, it's an instant. You don't need Go Again. But this has Go Again, so you play it, it resolves, you get an action point thanks to the Lumina Ascension Go Again. And, well, the rest of it, you're about to see why you want to search for it with something like a Beacon of Victory if you have the opportunity to. Until the end of turn, this reads, until the end of turn, weapons you control get +1 power, and if this hits, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a light card, you put it into your hero's soul and gain 1 life. That's solid. Otherwise, you put it on the bottom of your deck. Then if you charge this turn, you may attack an additional time with each weapon you control. That is absurd. That is absurd. The amount of damage I've done in a single turn just off of my weapons on Lumina Ascension turns is unbelievable. I've dealt 20 damage in a single turn thanks to my weapons alone. That is stupid. Because you can play multiple of these in a single turn. That's the thing. You play one of these. Well, you can play a second one of these. You can play a third one of these. If you really, like, I can't tell you how often I pull 2 of these and play 2 of these in a single turn. Like, you wouldn't think it happens that often, but I swear, it happens to me way more often than it should. So yeah, you play Lumina Ascension at instant speed with something like a Spirit of Irina. Even if you don't, You can charge, you can banish something from your soul with Boltyn's ability to give your Raiden go again to attack with it an additional time thanks to the Lumina Ascension. And then, every single time your weapon's hitting that turn, you are gonna put more cards into your soul and then likely gain life. I mean, yeah. If it's a light card, which is this entire deck, you're gonna be putting it into the soul and gaining life. That is insane, that is nuts, that is stupidly good. Yeah, so yeah. Lumina Ascension is the best card in the entire deck. It is the main combo piece of the deck. And with Raiden, my favorite weapon in the game, you can do so much with this card. It is not even funny because you just keep coming in for free with Raiden. And you just come in for like 4 damage. And then 4 damage again. And if you play another Lumina Ascension, then 4 damage again. You're gaining life. And you gain 1 life, 2 life, maybe even 3 life. That's absurd. That is insane. So yeah. Now let's go over the sideboard, the inventory. The main thing with the inventory is that it is basically taking the super aggro go wide version of the deck and it is replacing it with more mid-rangey. If the deck needs to set up a lot more, it'll be a lot more mid-rangey thanks to the cards in this equipment suite. But first I want to go over some of the equipment that's basically in the deck for, you know, preventing arcane damage, because that's a big thing right now in the meta. No Rune Gloves is the only thing with Arcane Barrier in this deck, because this deck doesn't really have a ton of great pitching options, even in the inventory. There are no blues in this deck, period, end of sentence, whether it's in the main deck or the inventory. So yeah, only 1 piece of Arcane Barrier, but it is still important because, I mean, you need to save your butt somehow, and having even 1 piece of Arcane Barrier is very good. But I do have Radiant Flow, allowing you to prevent some damage by getting rid of a card from your soul, which is good. It is good. Radiant Flow. It can allow you to just preventing damage is a lot better than you would think, especially when it comes to arcane damage. I mean, you need to prevent damage somehow. You need to prevent that arcane damage somehow. Something like a Radiant Flow can help you in that sense if you really need it to. Then there's Halo of Illumination. I love this card. Spell Void 2, so if you would be dealt arcane damage, you may destroy this and prevent 2 of that damage that source would deal to you. Then at an instant, you can pay a resource, destroy this, put a card from your hand into your soul. If it's a light card, you get to draw a card. So you can get some value. You're not technically charging, which is unfortunate, but you are getting some value off of this if you just need to use its own ability, which you're likely never going to be using, and you're just going to be using the Spell Void if you do put this into the main board, or if you're signing this in instead of the Halo, you're putting this in. Likely you're just going to be using it for the Spell Void too, but if you need its ability, it is a solid ability. But then the rest of the deck, I got Courage Blade Hold, which basically is in the deck thanks to, or for the Centauri Saber and the Hot Streak. For the more mid-rangey, you take out, so in more mid-rangey matchups where you're setting up a lot more, you're doing a lot more setup and a lot less like go-wide stuff, you're just doing the big combo, you're only focusing on something like Lumina Ascension, you're only focusing on that, and or via the Vanguard, Courage Blade Hold is in the deck to make Centauri Saber and Hot Streak cost 0, because the reason that Raiden is so good as a weapon for Lumina Ascension is because it's costing 0 every time you attack with it. You don't have to pitch anything or pay anything or do anything in order to come in with it. Courage Blade Hold is to make sure that Centauri Saber and Hot Streak on those turns, for when you're doing like Lumina Ascensions, if you're playing these cards, Centauri Saber and Hot Streak over Raiden, yeah, you're playing them for free. You're attacking with them for free every single time when you're doing the big Lumina Ascension turn, when you have these weapons in the deck. So Courage Blade Hold, 2-block temper equipment that as an action you can destroy it and it give all your sword attacks the ability to cost 1 less to attack with for the entirety of the turn. That is insane. That is very good, since Centauri Saber and Hot Streak both cost one resource to attack with. They both come in for 2, which normally they can't buff them up. They can't get them above their base because Raiden is always Raiden always has power greater than his base, so these cards can't get power greater than his base, but thanks to Lumina Ascension, they actually do. I just want to make that note super quick. Centauri Saber, 1 cost to attack. When it's defended by 1 or more attack actions, it gets +1 power. It's a solid card. It's not better than Raiden, but in those more like setup matchups, more combo focused matchups, Centauri Saber and its best buddy Hot Streak is a great combo. Hot Streak is the same thing as Centauri Saber, but instead of +1 power, it's Go Again, which is arguably better. But yeah, for the combo side, it is honestly actually a lot better. But yeah, so Hot Streak, Centauri Saber, good for the more combo-focused matchups, where you're needing to set up a lot more and focus a lot more on that. And the rest of the cards in this deck are also in the deck for that. Boltyn Blade, it's a 4-cost 7 attack, which is insane, but it costs 2 less to play for each time you've charged this turn. That is notable, that is noteworthy, because something that is very important on those big Lumina Ascension combo turns with something like a Centauri Saber and Hot Streak, if you side those in, is that via the Vanguard is very important to give those +1 power, to just come in for even more with each of them, for like, yeah, you know, just to buff them up by 1 and then buff them up by 1 thanks to the Lumina Ascension. Both of these coming in for 4 damage for free if you pop the Courage Blade hold is insane. And Boltyn Courage is a way to basically go even more, go wide, and do even more damage because it costs you less for each time you've charged this turn. You charged once with something like via the Vanguard, or you even charge twice with it or something like that. And then it's a 2-cost or even 0-cost 7 attack. That's insane. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Then there is Snatch, 0-cost 4 attack. It's only a 2 of, but it's a 0-cost 4 attack that if it hits, you get to draw a card. Again, more combo, more setup. Drawing cards is a lot more important. Getting the important things into your arsenal, especially early on, is very important, which is why something like Snatch is in the sideboard for that very reason. And lastly, Sink Below. It is a 0-cost 4-block generic defense reaction that it does say you may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck to then draw a card. The only reason that something like a Sink Below or a Snatch are not in the main board of the deck, because they are very powerful cards. The only reason that they're not in the main boards of the deck is because in the main list, I want to always guarantee with Lumina Ascension that you're hitting every single time. You're putting something into your soul every single time that your weapon hits and gaining life every single time. But thanks to Lumina Ascension, it has to be a light card when it hits in order to put it into your soul and gain that life, right? Well, these cards, Snatch and Sink Below, are not light cards. So that's the only reason they're not in the main board. I just want to make that note. But yeah, this is the deck. I took a while to explain everything, but I just wanted to make sure that I got down every single point and every single thing that I wanted to go over. So yeah, that's the deck. I love this deck. Boltyn is my favorite deck in all of Flesh and Blood. I hope you're all enjoying I'm making this video on Flesh and Blood's 5th anniversary, 5th birthday. I hope you're all enjoying the days afterwards, and you're still playing some great Flesh and Blood games, and you're still playing your favorite decks, and having an absolute blast. Leave a comment down below, tell me your favorite deck in all Flesh and Blood and why. Go over and tell me a little story like I did with Boltyn. And with all that aside, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, it's completely free, you won't regret it, and have a great rest of your day.